So there have been a number of incidents reported over the last 2 to 3 weeks of pretty large-sized drones flying over New Jersey, and so we've now heard the Pentagon say they're not a national security threat. We've heard that from the White House as well.
Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle, and I'm joined today by defense reporter Mike Brest. Mike, there's been all these controversies involving President-elect Trump's nominee for Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, but the latest controversy sort of involves his potential detractors. So there's been some discussion of reporting about his academic credentials. What's the latest?
So earlier this week, we saw a story that didn't get published, but we saw whispers about it. And so it began when Mr. Hegseth posted that ProPublica would be coming out with a story about his academic records. And he ascribed it to be fake news.
Mm-hmm.
And so it turns out that ProPublica reached out to West Point because Pete Hegseth said years ago that he had applied, gotten accepted, and chose not to go.
Mm-hmm.
And so ProPublica reached out to West Point and asked if that was true. And West Point actually came back to them and said it wasn't. And that was a mistake. And so West Point officials...
To be clear, it turned out it was true that he had applied
Correct.
and been accepted.
Yes. So it turns out that West Point was wrong when they told the outlet that he hadn't applied, which is what they said. It turns out when they checked their records again, and West Point confirmed this to me personally, that they do have a record of him applying and getting accepted.
Mm-hmm.
One aspect of this that should be noted is that we're talking about an application that's now 25 years old.
Right. So, in other news, closer to home, what's going on with these drones flying over New Jersey?
So there have been a number of incidents reported over the last 2 to 3 weeks of pretty large-sized drones flying over New Jersey, and so we've now heard the Pentagon say they're not a national security threat. We've heard that from the White House as well, but at the same time they still say they don't know what exactly they are or who's responsible for them. There is an FBI official who testified in front of Congress this week who said they don't know who's responsible. The investigation is still ongoing, and they say that they're just getting started.
Hopefully it's just Santa Claus. So we're having this transition from the Biden administration to the Trump administration. They're starting to cooperate and brief the incoming Trump officials. But there are some disagreements, obviously, between the current president and the future president, and one of them involves the war in Ukraine. Talk about that.
We heard earlier this week from President-elect Trump that he is not supportive of President Biden's decision to give Ukraine the freedom to hit military targets deep inside Russian territory. And so this was a decision that we've talked about for more than a year now, that the Biden administration had really gone back and forth over whether or not to do this. The downside being they felt like the Russians would view this as an escalation,
right.
Which is something that's been a concern the entirety of the war from the Biden administration's perspective. That being said, they decided in November to lift these restrictions, mainly as a response to North Korea's decision to provide thousands of troops to Russia.
Mm-hmm.
And so we heard this week that President Trump thinks that this was an escalation in his opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And we know President-elect Trump has been pretty clear he wants to see both sides come to the negotiating table.
Right.
And so an aspect of that is the Biden administration knows that it only has until January 20th to continue providing aid to Ukraine before Ukraine will likely be forced to the negotiating table. So it's been the Biden administration's prerogative at this point to continue aiding Ukraine as much as it can to the maximum it's been able to ensure that they have a better position when they go to the negotiating table.
Thank you, Mike. You can read Mike and the rest of our national security team's coverage at washingtonexaminer.com.